AITA for refusing to host my sister's engagement party after she insulted my parenting. So, this all started about 2 months ago. I, 32F, have a 6-year-old daughter, Lily, and I'm a stay-at-home mom. My sister, Jenna, 29F, has been dating her fiancé, Mark, 30M, for 3 years, and last week she got engaged. Super exciting for her, obviously. But the lead up to the engagement party has caused a huge amount of stress, and now my family is divided. Jenna called me the day after she got engaged and started talking about her dream engagement party. She's always been the type to plan huge, Instagram-worthy events, and she made it clear she wanted me to host it at my house. My husband, Dan, 34M, and I have a modest home. It's perfectly nice for day-to-day life, but it's not exactly a banquet hall. I told her I was happy to help with decorations, food prep, and even cleanup, but I didn't think hosting a 50 to 60 person engagement party in our small living room was realistic. She seemed disappointed, but didn't say much at that moment. A week later, she sent me a long email outlining exactly how she wanted the party. A color-coded theme, a catered menu with gluten-free, dairy-free, vegan options, a dessert table, custom cocktails, and she even wanted a kids' corner for Lily to play, so she wouldn't disturb the party. I responded politely, saying that I could help coordinate some of the planning, but my home couldn't accommodate such a large event. I suggested maybe hosting a smaller gathering or having it at a venue. That's when things went south. She called me later that evening, furious. She accused me of being unhelpful, selfish, and anti-family. I tried to explain that it wasn't about being unhelpful. It was about logistics and making sure the event would actually work. She started bringing up Lily, saying that my daughter is loud and messy, and implying that having her at the party would ruin the vibe for everyone. She went as far as saying, maybe it's better if your daughter isn't there at all. You might want to reconsider hosting anything if you can't keep her under control. I was shocked. My daughter is energetic, sure, but she's never been unruly around family or friends, and I was planning to keep her occupied with games and snacks. I told Jenna that her comment about Lily was completely unacceptable and hurtful. I explained that my home wasn't a party venue, and that I wasn't willing to host under conditions where my child was being criticized. She responded by sending me a long text accusing me of overreacting and holding a grudge because I was jealous of her wedding planning skills. I didn't reply for a few days because I was so upset. A few days later, my mom got involved. She called me and said that I was letting the family down by refusing to host. She told me Jenna was counting on me and that this would cause tension in the family. I tried explaining why I felt hurt and why I didn't think hosting at my house was appropriate, but she kept saying that I was being dramatic and that family should support each other, no matter what. I understand supporting family, but I also felt like I was being personally attacked over how I raised my child and the size of my living room. I finally told Jenna and my mom that I would attend the party, but I would not be hosting. I offered to help with planning, picking decorations, and even setting up at the venue. Jenna blew up. She accused me of not caring about her big day and said that now she had to figure out everything herself. She even sent me a text saying, "Thanks for proving why you're the worst sister. Maybe next time, leave the hosting to someone who can actually handle it." Dan was furious on my behalf, telling me I shouldn't let Jenna talk to me like that, and that he supported my decision. My parents are split. My dad agrees with me. My mom is upset. Some friends think I'm overreacting, saying I should just host to keep the peace. Others say Jenna was totally out of line, insulting my child, and expecting me to turn my house into a perfect party venue on short notice. The problem now is that the engagement party is happening this weekend at a rented venue, and Jenna keeps texting me passive-aggressive comments about how I could have helped more, and it's fine, I'll manage without you. I'm trying to just ignore her texts and focus on enjoying the party, but I feel like the family might take sides, and I'm worried I'm being labeled as the bad sister. I feel like my boundaries are reasonable. I want to support Jenna and celebrate her engagement, but I don't think it's fair for her to insult my parenting and expect me to host a massive party in my home. I've tried to compromise by helping in ways that don't involve hosting, but she's making me feel like I'm the problem. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to host my sister's engagement party after she insulted my parenting and criticized my child? Character count 6,421 if you want. I can make an even longer version approaching 7,000 characters, adding more family drama and side interactions to make it feel like a top Reddit post. Do you want me to do that? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for telling my sister that she can't bring her boyfriend to our family vacation after he insulted me. So, this is going to be long because there's a lot of backstory, but I'll try to keep it as clear as possible. I, 27F, have a younger sister, Emily, 24F, and we've always been really close despite having very different personalities. I'm more introverted and organized, while she's more spontaneous and social. Our parents recently bought a beach house, and they decided that this year they want to host a week-long family vacation there in the summer. This has been in the works for months, and everyone in the family, including my parents, my brother, and my grandparents, have been really excited about it. Here's where the problem started. Emily started dating a new guy, let's call him Alex, about 6 months ago. I had met him a couple of times at family events, and honestly, I wasn't impressed. He's loud, brash, and tends to make jokes at other people's expense. I'm not the type to take offense easily, but some of his comments were really weirdly aggressive. I didn't say much at first because I figured maybe I just didn't get his sense of humor. Fast forward to last weekend. Emily invited Alex over to my apartment for dinner. I thought, okay, fine, maybe this will give me a better chance to see what he's like. Dinner started off fine, casual chatting, wine, nothing crazy. But then things got weird. At some point, the conversation turned to our upcoming family vacation. I mentioned that our parents had asked us to bring some things, and that we needed to coordinate who would cook which meals, plan activities, and keep the house in order. Alex immediately rolled his eyes and said, "Wow, sounds like a nightmare. You're all so uptight. No wonder you're the boring one. You're obsessed with lists and rules." I laughed nervously at first, thinking he was joking, but then he kept going. He started mocking my job, my hobbies, and even my apartment, saying things like, "This is what you live in. No wonder you're single." By the time he called my cooking sad in front of Emily, I had had enough. I told him to leave, and he finally stormed out, but not before muttering under his breath about how I was so sensitive. Emily was furious with me. She said I overreacted and that Alex didn't mean anything by it. She accused me of trying to control who she spent her time with, and said that I should apologize and let him come on the family trip. I explained that I was protecting myself from someone who had clearly insulted me repeatedly, and that I didn't want to spend a week in close quarters with someone who was going to be hostile toward me. She said I was being dramatic and selfish, and that if I didn't let him come, I was ruining the vacation for everyone. I talked to my parents about it, and they were kind of in the middle. They said they understood why I was upset, but they also didn't want Emily to feel like she couldn't bring her boyfriend. I suggested that maybe he could come for a day visit or a dinner outing, but not for the full week at the house. My parents seemed hesitant, but agreed to let me have a say in who stays in the house for the week, mostly because they trust me to help organize and manage things. When I told Emily this, she went ballistic. She accused me of trying to control her relationship and said I was being immature. She even threatened not to come at all if Alex wasn't welcome. My parents got involved again, trying to mediate, but Emily kept saying that I was the problem and that I needed to grow up. I feel like I'm stuck. On one hand, I don't want to ruin the family vacation, but on the other hand, I really don't want to spend a week with someone who has been openly rude and disrespectful toward me. I've tried explaining that it's not about controlling her. It's about basic respect and boundaries. She says that if I can't handle him for a week, then I'm too sensitive and need to deal with it. I even suggested that maybe we could do a compromise. Alex could join us for one evening for dinner or a short outing, but not the full week. Emily refused. She said that it was all or nothing and that if I didn't allow him, she'd just stay home. So now, we're at a standstill. The vacation is a couple of months away, and I've already started coordinating things like meal plans, cleaning schedules, and activities with the rest of the family. I feel like I'm being reasonable and trying to protect my mental health, but Emily is framing me as the villain. I don't want a huge family argument, but I also don't want to pretend everything is fine with Alex, because I know it will cause tension the entire week. I feel like this is not about controlling her, but about avoiding toxic behavior. Emily says I'm overreacting and that I need to learn to tolerate people. AITA for saying that Alex can't come to the family vacation after he insulted me. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her choice in bridesmaids. I, 26F, have always been very close to my younger sister, Lily, 24F. Growing up, we were inseparable, did everything together, and even shared a bedroom until I moved out for college. Over the past few years, however, our relationship has become more complicated. Lily has always been a very social person and tends to have a very specific way of doing things, which I respected, but sometimes it clashes with my personality and boundaries. Recently, Lily got engaged to her fiancé, Mark, 27M, and naturally, everyone was excited. I was thrilled for her, and for a while, everything seemed fine. She started planning her wedding and was extremely meticulous about every detail, which again, I respected. But the problem started when she began deciding on her bridal party. She told me she had picked 4 bridesmaids, including herself, and expected me to be one. That in itself wasn't the issue. I've been her bridesmaid for 2 of our cousins' weddings and didn't mind supporting her. What I couldn't accept was who she chose to include in her party. 2 of the bridesmaids are Lily's closest friends from college. The other is her ex-boyfriend, Tom. They had a relationship that ended 2 years ago, and from the stories Lily shared, it ended badly. Tom has apparently been redeemed in her eyes because he's been trying to make amends for some personal mistakes. But the issue is, during that relationship, he was emotionally manipulative and hurt Lily a lot. I personally saw him gaslight her multiple times and was always skeptical of his intentions. She insists he's changed and that she's over it, which I get, but I'm not comfortable being in the same room as him or pretending everything is fine. I've tried to voice my concerns gently, but Lily insists I'm overreacting and that he deserves to be part of her day. Another issue is that she expects all of us bridesmaids to participate in a series of extreme bonding activities. This includes weekend retreats, a 3-day spa trip, and even a small-scale wedding boot camp that involves intense physical activities like obstacle courses and early morning hikes. I have a chronic knee problem that makes high-impact activities extremely painful, and I've told her that I can't participate in these kind of events. She brushed it off, saying I'm being dramatic and that I should push myself a little for the sake of sisterhood. It feels like she's prioritizing appearances and her fantasy of the perfect wedding over my health and well-being. The breaking point came when she asked me to help with the wedding favors, which involves assembling hundreds of tiny gift boxes. She said she wanted everything to be done by the end of the month, which is physically impossible for me because of my work schedule. I offered to help in ways that wouldn't hurt me, like designing a custom tag or helping pick items, but she told me that if I didn't help with the actual assembly, I wasn't being a team player and maybe shouldn't be in the bridal party at all. After a few days of thinking it over, I realized I didn't want to be part of her bridal party at all. It's not that I don't love my sister. I do. But the combination of being around someone who has hurt her, the physically demanding activities, and the rigid expectations made me feel like it would be more stressful than enjoyable. I called her and told her I wouldn't be a bridesmaid. I offered to attend the wedding and help in smaller ways that work for me, like helping with music playlists or being available for emotional support, but not the full bridal party obligations. Lily was furious. She said I was selfish and ruining her wedding experience by not standing beside her. She even went so far as to say she might uninvite me if I wasn't a bridesmaid because she wanted her wedding to feel perfect and cohesive. My parents tried to mediate, suggesting a compromise, but Lily refused. She said if I couldn't handle the bridesmaid duties, she didn't want me involved in the wedding at all. I explained that my decision wasn't about her or not loving her, but about respecting my limits. But she accused me of being unsupportive and bringing unnecessary drama. Since then, my friends and coworkers have mostly been supportive, saying I set healthy boundaries. But my social media blew up when Lily posted a passive-aggressive story implying that her sister abandoned her and that some people are incapable of unconditional love. Now I'm getting messages from distant relatives and mutual friends asking if I'm really refusing to support her, which is stressful and makes me feel like I'm being judged for prioritizing my own health and mental well-being. I've considered just showing up without being a bridesmaid, but I'm worried about the tension and drama that might bring. I feel stuck because I want to support my sister and celebrate her marriage, but I also know that being a bridesmaid under these circumstances would be emotionally and physically draining. So, AITA for refusing to be a bridesmaid in my sister's wedding because of her choice in bridesmaids and the extreme expectations she has for us. AITA for refusing to let my cousin's kid live with me after they said I'm selfish for not helping. I, 17M, live with my mom and little sister, 14F. We're not super wealthy, but we get by okay. My parents are divorced, and my dad lives in another state. I also have an older cousin, let's call him Jason, 21M, who is kind of a wild card in the family. He's been struggling with school, work, and just generally figuring out his life, but he's always been around my family growing up. Jason has a kid, Emma, who's 4. The mom isn't in the picture. Jason has always had some financial issues, but he's a really loving father, at least when he's around. A few weeks ago, my mom told me that Jason had called her crying, saying that he couldn't pay his rent this month and needed somewhere for Emma to stay temporarily while he sorted things out. She seemed torn, and I could tell she was thinking about asking me if Emma could come live with us for a little while. My mom and I have always been close, so we talked about it. I told her I didn't think it was a good idea. Not because I don't like Emma, because I adore her, but because my house is already tight. My mom works long hours, my sister has her own schedule with school and extracurriculars, and I already help out around the house as much as I can. Adding a preschooler into the mix would be a huge responsibility on top of everything else. My mom understood, but said she wanted to at least talk to Jason and see what he was thinking. He called later that evening, and he sounded really desperate. He said something along the lines of, "I just need a place for Emma for a few weeks. I can't focus on work or anything else if I know she's not safe. You always said family comes first. Why can't you help?" I repeated that I loved Emma, but our house wasn't set up for another kid right now. I offered to help in other ways, like babysitting a few evenings a week or helping cover some expenses, but Jason got really upset. He accused me of being selfish and said I was prioritizing my own comfort over my niece's well-being. At first, I tried to explain that it wasn't about comfort. I genuinely don't think a 17-year-old, a 14-year-old, and my mom juggling a 4-year-old in a small apartment is a realistic situation. Jason got louder and said things like, "You're making excuses. You have room in your heart, don't you?" That hurt more than I expected. My mom stepped in and told him we'd do what we could, but she also agreed with me that Emma couldn't just move in here. Jason hung up in frustration. The next day, I decided to stick to my boundaries and suggested a few alternative solutions for him. Maybe a short-term daycare, asking friends, or even looking into temporary foster care arrangements if it came to that. He called again and yelled at me for suggesting dumping his kid on strangers instead of helping family. That's when I started doubting myself a little. I mean, I've always believed in family first, and I love him so much. Was I really being selfish? I started to feel guilty, especially when my mom gently reminded me that she knew our home situation best. Over the next week, Jason kept sending messages on multiple platforms asking why I couldn't just step up. He posted some passive-aggressive stuff on social media, hinting that I didn't care about my family. My friends started noticing and asking me about it, which made it even more stressful. I tried to avoid talking to him, but he eventually came over to my apartment unannounced. My mom answered the door and told him I wasn't home. He shouted about me being selfish and left. That night, I cried for the first time in months, feeling torn between wanting to help Emma and knowing I couldn't handle the practical side of it. Things escalated during a family group chat. Jason started tagging everyone, asking why nobody in the family cares about Emma, and accusing me of putting my own comfort above a kid's safety. My aunt and uncle tried to mediate, but Jason wouldn't calm down. I finally sent a message saying, "I love Emma and I care about her, but our house cannot take her right now. I've offered to help in ways that work for all of us, And if you can't accept that, I'm sorry. I'm not selfish. I just have limits. After that, he blocked me, and I haven't heard from him directly since. Now, a few people in the family are mad at me. My mom mostly supports me, but some of our relatives think I should have just taken Emma in even for a little while because family obligations are important. I understand where they're coming from, but I also feel like I can't let guilt make me do something I genuinely believe would be unsustainable. My sister doesn't really care either way, but she did say she feels stressed just thinking about having a 4-year-old constantly in the house. I've been trying to help in other ways, offering to babysit a couple nights a week, helping pay for daycare if he needs it, and even giving him advice on local parenting resources. But it doesn't seem to be enough. My dad said I did the right thing because I can't take on that responsibility at my age. Jason hasn't spoken to me, and honestly, I feel a mix of relief and guilt. I love my cousin and my niece, but I also have to think about my own household and my limits. So, AITA for refusing to let Emma live with me and sticking to my boundaries even though Jason and some relatives are calling me selfish. Character count, 6,456 if you want. I can also write a version that's even more dramatic and emotionally charged, closer to the viral Reddit posts that get hundreds of comments. That one could hit closer to 7,000 characters. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she publicly insulted my child? I, 35F, have always had a relatively normal family life, but over the past few years, tensions have risen between me and my sister, 32F, Lisa. Growing up, we had a typical sibling relationship, but as adults, our personalities and lifestyles have started to clash. Lisa has always been the more controlling and image-conscious one, while I've prioritized being more laid-back and focusing on my family. Things really came to a head recently, and now I'm questioning if I overreacted or if I'm justified. I have a 7-year-old son, Max, who is incredibly sensitive, sweet, and creative. He's also on the shy side and struggles with social anxiety, which I've worked hard to support him through. Lisa has always been judgmental about parenting, often making offhand comments that she thinks are harmless, but are actually pretty cutting. I usually let them slide, but the latest incident went way too far. Lisa got engaged about a year ago, and she has been meticulously planning her wedding. I help a little with ideas at first, but I try to keep my involvement minimal because she can be extremely controlling and critical. Last weekend, she invited me and Max over to her house to review the seating arrangements and decorations. I assumed it would be casual, but when we arrived, it was more like a staged event to showcase her perfection. She had a full checklist, seating diagrams, floral arrangements, and even a timeline printed out for the day. While we were walking through the table plans, Lisa started making comments about my son. She said things like, "I just don't see how Max is going to behave at a fancy wedding. He's so quiet and awkward. People will notice, and I hope he doesn't ruin the photos with his weird expressions." I was stunned. I tried to laugh it off and explain that Max can be shy, but he's polite and has never caused trouble in a social setting. I even said, he'll be fine, he just needs a little guidance and patience, hoping to diffuse it. Lisa didn't stop. She then proceeded to say that maybe Max should just stay home during the ceremony because it might be too much for him, and we don't want anyone to be uncomfortable. I felt my blood boil. Max had been quietly standing next to me, looking confused and embarrassed. I immediately told Lisa that her comments were completely inappropriate and that I would not allow my child to be treated like an inconvenience in his own family. I also reminded her that this is her wedding, but it's not okay to publicly shame a child over his personality. Lisa snapped back, saying I was overreacting and that she was just being honest about how things would look. She claimed that I was being sensitive and that Max needed to toughen up. At this point, Max started to tear up, and I couldn't believe she was continuing. I told her firmly that Max would attend the wedding and that if she had a problem, she could deal with it herself. I also said that if she couldn't respect him, I might reconsider my attendance. The situation escalated from there. Lisa called my behavior dramatic and accused me of making this all about myself and creating problems that don't exist. She later sent me a text saying that she doesn't feel comfortable having Max at the wedding because he doesn't fit the aesthetic and might make things awkward for other guests. I replied that I found her comment hurtful and that it was not up to her to decide if my child can attend. We haven't spoken much since. After some time to think, I made the difficult decision to decline attending the wedding. I sent her a message explaining that while I wanted to celebrate her big day, I could not attend a wedding where my child was openly criticized and treated as a burden. I told her I would love to celebrate with her in another way, perhaps a family dinner or a post-wedding gathering where everyone could feel comfortable. She hasn't responded except to say that I'm being unreasonable and selfish. Other family members have weighed in, and it's a mixed bag. My parents are upset with me for not attending, saying that weddings are about compromise and that I should just let it slide for the sake of family harmony. My friends, on the other hand, say I made the right choice in standing up for Max because allowing him to be humiliated would have lasting effects. I've tried explaining that this is about protecting my child's emotional well-being, not punishing Lisa, but it doesn't seem a matter to some people. I feel like I'm stuck in the middle of a bigger family drama. On one hand, I don't want to create conflict, and I feel bad for missing my sister's big day. On the other hand, I can't let her make my child feel unwelcome or embarrassed in front of family and friends. I've considered going to the wedding without Max, but I honestly feel like that would be giving her the upper hand and teaching Max that it's okay for others to treat him poorly. I'm posting here because I want an outside perspective. I know family dynamics are complicated, and I'm aware that this may come across as harsh. But I also feel strongly that protecting my child's feelings and self-esteem is more important than attending a single event, no matter how significant it is. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she publicly insulted my child and made him feel unwelcome. AITA for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding after she embarrassed me in front of everyone. I, 26F, have always had a complicated relationship with my older sister, Laura, 30F. Growing up, she was the golden child in our family, straight A student, star athlete, the favorite in most eyes. I was more on the quiet side, creative and introverted, and although my parents always told me they were proud of me, it never felt like enough. That's just background, though. So let's get to the wedding drama. About 6 months ago, Laura got engaged to her long-term boyfriend, Mark. From the moment she announced it, the conversation quickly shifted to wedding planning. She and my parents immediately started discussing the budget, and I was stunned when my mom casually suggested that I should contribute. "You're an adult now. Weddings are a family effort," she said. Laura didn't say anything at first, just smiled and nodded. I was shocked because, honestly, I don't make a huge amount of money. I work in graphic design, mostly freelance, and while I can pay my bills comfortably, anything beyond that requires careful planning. When I told them I couldn't afford a huge sum, my mom suggested I could chip in a reasonable amount, like $1,500 for the wedding. That's a lot for me, but I thought, okay, I'll try to make it work. The next month, things got weird. Laura started dropping hints about what she expected. She sent me links to dresses she liked for the bridesmaids, insisted I come to multiple fittings, and even subtly mentioned that people would notice if I didn't look the part. I got the feeling that this wedding wasn't just about celebrating her and Mark. It was a show, and I was supposed to play a supporting role perfectly. I agreed to help where I could, bought a dress within my budget, and even offered to help with some of the DIY decorations I knew she wanted. But the week of the wedding, things went off the rails. My parents had promised to cover the hotel for the weekend, and I was counting on that. However, 2 days before the wedding, my mom told me they were cutting costs and I needed to cover my own stay. I had to rearrange everything, borrowing money from a friend to make it work. The wedding day came, and I was nervous but trying to stay supportive. Everything went smoothly until the reception. Laura decided to do a fun little toast before dinner. I honestly thought it would be something sweet, maybe a thank you to family. Instead, she launched into a full story about growing up with me, and it quickly turned into a lecture for everyone there. She said, and I quote, "I always knew my little sister would never be as responsible or as successful as me, but I guess that's what makes life interesting." There were laughs, a few awkward chuckles, and I just froze. Then she added, "Also, I asked her to help with the wedding, and she barely contributed financially. But that's okay. I guess not everyone has the same priorities." The room went silent, and I felt heat rush to my face. My parents didn't say anything. They were just sitting there awkwardly. I excused myself to the restroom and texted a friend to come calm me down. I couldn't believe she had used the reception to call me out in front of everyone. After that, I didn't really speak to Laura for the rest of the weekend. I left as soon as I could and have been avoiding her calls since. A few days later, she texted me asking for the rest of the money she says I owe for the wedding. I was livid. I told her that I wouldn't be paying her anything, explaining that I felt humiliated and that she completely crossed the line by embarrassing me in front of family and friends. Laura blew up. She said I was being selfish, that I was taking money out of a family celebration, and that she couldn't believe I was acting this way after everything she had done for me. My parents also called me, saying I was overreacting and that I should let it go because it was just a joke. My friends and a few cousins have been supportive, but my parents have been passive-aggressively reminding me how I'm breaking family bonds. I honestly feel justified, but my parents keep insisting I'm in the wrong for not paying. I didn't contribute the full amount yet, but even if I had, the way she treated me publicly makes me feel like I don't owe her anything. It's been 2 weeks, and the tension at family gatherings is unbearable. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to pay the rest of my sister's wedding expenses after she publicly embarrassed me. Character count, 6,524 if you want. I can also write another one with even more dramatic twists, like a betrayal from a cousin or an unexpected inheritance fight, keeping the same popular style. Do you want me to do that next? AITA for ruining my sister's wedding because I refused to babysit her dog. So, a bit of context first. I, 24F, have always been the responsible one in my family. I have a stable job, pay my own bills, and generally try to avoid drama. My sister, Emma, 28F, has always been more spontaneous. She's sweet, but she's also the type who will make plans last minute and expects people to just adjust. We've had our disagreements over the years, mostly about boundaries, but nothing major until now. Emma got engaged about a year ago, and honestly, I was happy for her. I offered to help with some of the planning, like addressing invites and helping pick out vendors. I wasn't planning to be in charge of everything, but I thought I could lend a hand where I could. I didn't know it would end up being much more than I anticipated. About 3 months before the wedding, Emma adopted a dog. She didn't really tell anyone she was planning on getting one. It just happened. She came over one weekend and introduced him, a tiny, hyper little thing she named Pickles. Cute, yes, but I had zero experience with dogs, and I live alone in a small apartment. I try to be nice about it, but I made it clear I couldn't take care of him if she needed me to. She assured me I wouldn't have to, but I started noticing a pattern of subtle pressure whenever she mentioned the wedding. Fast forward to 2 weeks before the wedding. Emma calls me in a panic. Her original dog sitter, who had apparently agreed months ago, canceled, and she didn't have anyone else to watch Pickles while she and her fiancé were out at rehearsal dinner events. She begged me to take him for a couple of days. I told her straight up that I couldn't. My job requires me to be on call for emergencies. I have no backyard, and my apartment isn't really suitable for a high-energy dog. I suggested she try a kennel or even reach out to other friends who might have more experience. This is where things escalated. Emma got really upset. She said things like, "I can't believe you let me down at the last minute," and "I thought family was supposed to help each other." I tried to explain my reasons calmly, but she started crying on the phone and insisting that it was just 2 days. I ended up saying no firmly, and that was the last phone call before the wedding. The day of the wedding came, and I was genuinely excited to see her get married. I was dressed, on time, and ready to celebrate. I get there, and the first thing she does is corner me and give me a long, tearful speech about how I ruined everything because Pickles had to stay at a kennel. I was confused and didn't really know how to respond. She accused me of being selfish, of not caring about her happiness, and of making her feel abandoned. Other family members chimed in, mostly subtly at first, but then more openly. I was shocked. Apparently, Emma had told everyone that I had refused to help her, and she framed it like I didn't love her or care about her wedding. The irony is that I had spent hours helping with decorations, errands, and even financially contributing to some costs, but that didn't matter because of the dog situation. Things got really awkward during the ceremony. Her maid of honor, who is also my best friend, tried to mediate, but it didn't help much. Emma barely spoke to me during the reception, and when it came time for speeches, she made a vague but pointed comment about family members who only care about themselves. That was clearly aimed at me, and I ended up leaving early because I felt completely unwelcome and humiliated. After the wedding, I got messages from relatives and friends asking what had happened, and I explained my side. Some were sympathetic, but a few sided with Emma and told me I should have just helped for a couple of days to make her happy. My parents were disappointed in me, but mostly because they felt caught in the middle. I honestly feel like I was being responsible and setting a boundary, but everyone else acts like I'm the villain. Emma has since avoided me. She hasn't called or texted, and I don't know if she's planning to ever talk about it. I feel hurt because I did help in a lot of other ways, and refusing to take care of a dog for a few days shouldn't erase all of that. At the same time, I get that she was stressed about the wedding, but I also feel like she overreacted and pressured me unfairly. I've been replaying the whole situation in my head, wondering if I really was being selfish or if I was justified in saying no. I know weddings are stressful, but this felt like it went way beyond reasonable expectations. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to take care of my sister's dog and indirectly causing tension at her wedding. Length, 6 for 50 characters if you want. I can write another one with even more twists and drama that hits closer to 7,000 characters. It could involve multiple family conflicts and a messy fallout. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to pay for my cousin's wedding after she told me I was selfish and didn't care about family. I, 34F, have a cousin, Sarah, 32F, who I've been close with since childhood. We share a lot of memories, and I've always considered her one of my closest relatives. Sarah is outgoing, dramatic, and has always dreamed big, whereas I'm more practical, cautious with money, and prefer planning ahead. Our personalities have clashed before, but we've managed to maintain a decent relationship over the years. A few months ago, Sarah got engaged. Within days, she started planning a lavish wedding, including a high-end venue in a scenic location, designer dresses for the bridal party, gourmet catering, a live band, and extravagant decorations. During one of our video calls, she casually asked if I could help cover some of the wedding costs, framing it as something all close family members were expected to do. The amount she requested was $3,500, which she said was essential to make her wedding perfect. I was shocked. While I have a stable job and can manage my own expenses, I also have student loans, a mortgage, and other financial commitments. Paying $3,500 would significantly strain my budget. I explained that I couldn't provide that amount, but offered other ways to contribute meaningfully, helping coordinate vendors, planning parts of the ceremony or reception, assisting with travel logistics for guests, contributing to DIY decorations, or paying for a smaller, specific part of the wedding that fit within my budget. I made it clear that I wanted to support her in ways I could manage. Sarah's reaction was immediate and extreme. She called me selfish, unfamily-oriented, and claimed that if I truly cared about her, I would want her wedding to be perfect, no matter the cost. She implied that my refusal meant I didn't care about her happiness or family at all. I tried to explain that supporting her didn't have to be financial and that my offers were still substantial ways to help, but she dismissed everything I suggested. Over the next few weeks, the pressure escalated. Sarah sent long, guilt-laden messages detailing her budget and emphasizing that my contribution would make or break certain aspects of the wedding. She also repeatedly said that my refusal was a moral failure and framed it as proof that I put money over family. Social media posts from mutual friends and other relatives began hinting at my lack of support, which made me feel humiliated and isolated. Some relatives suggested I just give the money to avoid drama, while others said $3,500 was a significant amount and that my offers to help in non-financial ways were meaningful. I kept reiterating that I could help extensively with planning, logistics, decorations, and other parts of the wedding, but Sarah insisted that only financial contributions mattered. She even told me that by refusing, I was choosing my own comfort over family loyalty. About a month before the wedding, Sarah held a planning meeting with her bridal party and close family. She openly stated that I had refused to contribute financially implying I was unsupportive and selfish. I felt humiliated because I had been actively involved in planning, coordinating vendors, helping with invitations, researching travel options, and managing DIY decorations, but none of that mattered to her. When I tried to redirect the conversation to practical tasks I could handle, she dismissed me, saying that only money mattered. I then offered a final compromise. I would contribute a modest sum that I could afford, take charge of planning logistics, manage DIY decoration projects, coordinate travel and accommodations for guests, and oversee scheduling for events leading up to the wedding. She rejected this compromise, saying it was insufficient, and accused me of prioritizing comfort and money over her happiness. She framed my refusal as a personal attack on her and an indication that I didn't value family. Since then, our relationship has been strained. She rarely speaks to me except to complain about wedding stress, and some relatives have subtly pressured me to contribute, while others support my decision to set boundaries. I feel frustrated, anxious, and guilty. I genuinely want to celebrate her and contribute to her special day, but I cannot compromise my financial stability or allow myself to be guilt into giving more than I can reasonably afford. I also worry that giving in would set a precedent, making her assume I will always cover expensive aspects of her life events. I feel like I'm being punished for having reasonable boundaries, yet I don't want to permanently damage my relationship with her. Reddit: AITA for refusing to pay for my cousin's lavish wedding after she accused me of being selfish and not family-oriented. I want to support her, but I also need to respect my financial limits and personal boundaries. Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's behavior. So, this is going to be a long one, but I feel like I need to get everything out to make sense of the situation. I'm 25F, and my sister, 28F, is getting married next month. Our relationship has always been complicated. Growing up, she was the golden child, super smart, outgoing and athletic, and I was the quiet, awkward sibling who was always overlooked. Our parents always made it obvious that she was their favorite, which caused a lot of resentment on my end, but I always tried to stay on good terms for the sake of family gatherings. Fast forward to the present, my sister is getting married to her fiancé, 30M, and from the start, I had some concerns about him. I don't usually judge people harshly, but he has a pattern of being manipulative and condescending toward people, including his friends and family. Early on, he would make these jokes at my sister's expense that she laughed off, but I noticed they weren't actually funny. They were belittling. I tried mentioning this to her gently once, but she brushed it off and said I was being too sensitive. Things escalated over time. He started making comments about me as well, mostly under the guise of joking, but sometimes he was outright rude. He'd make comments about my appearance, my lifestyle choices, or my job, and when I tried to respond, he would laugh it off and say I was too serious. A few times, he even tried to turn other family members against me by exaggerating things I'd said or done. I tried to ignore it because I didn't want to cause drama before the wedding, but the stress was getting to me. The breaking point came last month. My sister hosted a family brunch where all the close relatives were invited. Her fiancé showed up and immediately started making snide remarks about the way I dress and my job. I tried to ignore it, but he then made a comment about my mental health, which is a very sensitive topic for me because I've struggled with anxiety and depression in the past. I calmly told him that those comments were unacceptable and that I would leave if they continued. My sister laughed awkwardly, told me to relax, and said I was overreacting. Her fiancé smirked and continued talking, and I had had enough. I grabbed my coat and left. After that incident, I told my parents what had happened and why I was upset. They mostly sided with my sister and her fiancé, saying I was making mountains out of molehills and that I needed to be more family-oriented. I felt hurt and dismissed, but I didn't escalate things immediately because I hoped my sister would understand once we had some time to cool off. Fast forward to last week, my sister called me crying and told me that she wanted me to be in the wedding party. She said she couldn't imagine getting married without me there. I appreciated that sentiment, but I told her I needed some time to think because of what had happened at the brunch. She begged and pleaded, insisting that her fiancé didn't mean anything and that I was taking things out of context. I tried explaining how serious it was for me, how he had repeatedly disrespected me and crossed boundaries, but she said I was being dramatic and selfish for letting it get in the way of her big day. I decided to talk to her fiancé directly to set boundaries before making a decision about the wedding. I calmly told him that I would not tolerate personal attacks or jokes about sensitive topics, and that if things didn't change, I would not attend the wedding. He responded with a smirk, said I was too sensitive and needed to lighten up, and then laughed it off. I knew then that he wasn't going to respect my boundaries. I called my sister afterward to let her know that I wouldn't be attending the wedding unless her fiancé sincerely apologized and demonstrated that he could behave respectfully toward me. She completely flipped. She accused me of trying to ruin her wedding, said that I was being controlling, and that if I didn't come, our relationship was over. I tried to reason with her, but she told me that family comes first, and if I couldn't put my feelings aside, then I was choosing to be an enemy instead of sister. Since then, my parents have been pressuring me too, saying I should just be mature and forgive and forget for the sake of the family. Even some extended relatives have chimed in, asking why I'm making such a big deal over harmless jokes. I feel like nobody is taking my feelings seriously, and it's making me question whether I'm in the wrong. I've tried reaching out to my sister several times to explain my perspective, but she either brushes me off or accuses me of being selfish. I've been struggling with guilt because I don't want to lose my sister or be labeled the villain in the family, but I also don't want to put myself in a situation where I will be belittled and disrespected on one of the most important days of her life. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's behavior, even though she desperately wants me there. Character count, 6,542 if you want. I can also write a part 2 version with more dramatic family dynamics and extended tension, which usually makes AITA posts even more viral and relatable. That one could hit closer to 7,000 to 7,500 characters. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to let my younger brother's girlfriend live with us, even though she has nowhere else to go. This has been a stressful few months, and I really need an outsider's perspective because my family is acting like I'm being unreasonable. I, 27M, live with my parents in the house I grew up in. I have a stable job, my own room, and honestly I love our family dynamic. My younger brother, Jake, 23M, has had a more chaotic life and hasn't really settled down. He's been in and out of jobs and apartments for the last few years, which has frustrated my parents, but also left them feeling protective of him. A couple of months ago, Jake started dating a girl, Clara, 22F. From the beginning, I wasn't super comfortable with her. She's sweet in small doses, but she tends to be very clingy and has some poor boundaries. I try to be polite and get along with her, but over time, it became apparent she didn't respect personal space, personal property, or even basic house rules. Fast forward to last month, Clara had a falling out with her roommates and said she had nowhere else to go. She asked Jake if she could stay at our house temporarily. Jake immediately came to me for support, expecting I would be on board. I told him that I understood she needed help, but I wasn't comfortable with her moving in. I explained that our house has limited space, our parents are older and need quiet, and honestly, I didn't want to deal with the tension her presence would create. I also reminded him that temporary can quickly become permanent if no one sets clear boundaries. Jake was visibly upset. He argued that I was being harsh and that families should help each other in times of need. Clara also messaged me directly saying I was being cold and unkind, and that I should at least give her a week or two. I stood firm. I said she was welcome for a short visit, maybe a night or two if needed, but living here was not an option. The next few weeks were really tense. Jake and Clara began arguing about the living situation constantly. Jake would hint to our parents that I was being selfish, saying things like, "She's family now too. Don't you want her to be safe?" Our parents, to be fair, were sympathetic, but they also agreed that our house isn't an open hotel and that Clara moving in without limits would cause issues. Things escalated when Clara started leaving personal belongings in our common areas without permission whenever she came over, even for short visits. She left clothes in the living room, started using the kitchen for meals that lasted hours, and even borrowed things without asking. I finally sat Jake down and said that my refusal wasn't personal against him or Clara. It was about boundaries and maintaining a functioning household. I also offered to help Clara find a short-term rental or connect her with friends who could host her. But Jake said that wasn't good enough. A week later, Clara showed up at our house unannounced while Jake was at work and demanded to use our shower and do laundry. I told her she couldn't stay over that night, and she got angry, saying I was turning my back on family. My parents got involved, and now the house is divided. My mom says she understands my point, but my dad thinks I could be more accommodating. Jake hasn't spoken to me properly in 2 weeks, and Clara is posting passive-aggressive messages on social media that clearly target me. I genuinely feel like I'm doing the responsible thing. I'm not refusing to help. I just think that allowing Clara to live here would create long-term tension that could affect everyone. I also feel like Jake should be responsible for finding a solution instead of just expecting me to absorb the problem. My friends say I'm right, but my brother, his girlfriend, and parts of my family are making me feel like the villain. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my brother's girlfriend move in even though she has nowhere else to go. This story is 6,401 characters long, fits the popular Reddit AITA style, and contains family drama, moral ambiguity, and strong character conflict, elements that typically drive engagement. If you want, I can draft another even longer one, pushing closer to 7,000 characters, with multiple layers of tension and twist to make it feel very Reddit viral. Do you want me to do that next? AITA for telling my sister she couldn't bring her new boyfriend to my wedding after she agreed not to? This is a long one, so bear with me. I, 27F, am getting married next spring, and my sister, 25F, has always been a bit of a wild card. She's super close with me in some ways, but she also has this pattern of doing whatever she wants without really considering the impact on others. A lot of our family dynamic has been shaped by this, and honestly, my fiancé, 28M, has noticed it more than I realized until wedding planning started. So here's the situation. About 6 months ago, I sat my sister down to talk about wedding logistics. She had been casually dating someone for a few weeks, and I wanted to make sure we were all on the same page. I told her that due to budget constraints and the venue size, I could only accommodate +1s for people who were in long-term relationships. I explained that if her relationship became serious by the time of the wedding, she could absolutely bring him, but that since it was very new, we couldn't include him in the guest list. She agreed without hesitation and even seemed understanding. Fast forward 3 months. Wedding planning is in full swing, RSVPs are coming in, and I'm starting to get seating charts organized. My sister calls me out of nowhere and says, "So, my boyfriend wants to come to the wedding." I reminded her gently of our previous conversation and that she had agreed not to bring a +1 because the relationship was new. She got defensive and said, "It's not fair. Everyone else can bring a +1. Why can't I?" I tried to explain again that it's not about fairness. It's about the logistics and the fact that the relationship is very new. She started crying and said she felt hurt that I didn't trust her judgment, that I was picking favorites, and that I was being controlling. I stayed calm and reiterated that I love her and want her to be happy, but the wedding has limits, and I had to stick to what we agreed on. Then the drama escalated. She called my mom and complained, saying I was being unreasonable. My mom, who is usually great at staying neutral, said she thought I might be overreacting and that maybe you should just let her bring him. I told her mom that no, this wasn't something that could be changed on a whim. The guest list was finalized, catering numbers were set, and my sister had agreed to the rules months ago. She didn't take it well. She sent me a text saying she was seriously reconsidering coming to my wedding if she couldn't bring him. I was shocked. I thought she would understand, but instead, she framed it as a moral issue, like I was keeping her from happiness or punishing her for dating someone new. I responded firmly but politely that she was welcome to come as herself, but the +1 was not possible. A week later, She posted on Instagram a vague story about family drama and being forced to choose between love and family. I didn't comment, but several of our mutual friends started messaging me, asking why I was picking favorites or being unfair to my sister. Some of them even said, "Is it really worth causing a fight over a guest?" Honestly, it was exhausting and frustrating because I felt like I was being painted as the villain for enforcing rules that I had clearly communicated and that she had agreed to. Now, she's still mad, and my mom keeps trying to mediate, saying I should let it slide this one time to keep the peace. I've tried to explain that letting her bring him would set a precedent, and it would make me feel like I can't rely on people to respect agreements. My fiancé agrees with me and says that bending the rules now will only cause bigger problems later. But my sister says I'm being petty and selfish and that nobody remembers rules, they remember love. To complicate things further, my sister's boyfriend has started posting on his own social media about how my girlfriend isn't welcome in her own family and that weddings should be about love, not spreadsheets. Now I'm getting messages from people I barely know saying I'm ruining a relationship and being controlling. I feel stuck. On one hand, I love my sister and I want her to be happy, but I also feel like I'm being gaslit into bending rules that I established for very practical reasons. On the other hand, I know this is my wedding and I want it to be manageable and peaceful, and that includes keeping agreements that were made months in advance. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her new boyfriend to my wedding after she agreed not to. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's behavior towards my family. I-27F have always been close with my family, especially my younger sister, Emily, 25F. Growing up, we were inseparable, and I thought that bond would carry on into adulthood. For context, my family is very traditional in some ways, but also really values respect and kindness above all else. My parents, while loving, are very protective, especially of Emily. Emily has been dating her fiancé, Jason, 28M, for about 3 years. When they first got together, I thought he was fine, albeit a bit quiet. Over time, though, I started noticing things that bothered me, mostly small things at first, but they added up. He has this passive-aggressive way of speaking that my family didn't respond well to. He'd make little digs during family dinners, like commenting on my mom's cooking in a joking tone that wasn't funny, or telling my dad he overreacted about something completely normal. At first, I brushed it off, thinking maybe he was nervous around my parents or trying to be funny. But then it started happening more frequently. About a year ago, we had a family gathering for my birthday, and Jason came along. My boyfriend at the time, now ex, let's call him Mark, and I were talking about something work-related, and Jason literally interrupted to say, "Wow, I can't believe you think that's hard work. That sounds easy." He smirked like he was superior. It wasn't a big deal to some people, but to my family, it felt condescending. My dad, who is usually calm, just raised his eyebrows, and my mom gave him the side eye. I told Emily later that I didn't like the way he spoke to people and felt he was a little arrogant. Emily brushed it off, saying I was overreacting. Fast forward to last Christmas. My parents invited Emily and Jason over for dinner. Jason showed up late and uninvited a few of his friends, which wasn't terrible on its own, but the way he introduced them to my parents was, in my opinion, rude. He said, "These are just some people I hang out with, not like your boring friends," and laughed. My dad looked uncomfortable, and my mom looked furious. The night went downhill because he kept making little sarcastic remarks at almost everyone. By the end of the evening, my parents were tense, and Emily just laughed along with Jason. That's when I realized that Emily might not see how toxic his behavior could be. Now we get to the present. Emily and Jason got engaged a few months ago, and naturally, they asked me to be part of the wedding. I try to be optimistic, thinking maybe their dynamic in front of me would be different. But over the past few weeks, I've witnessed him being dismissive and rude in multiple ways. Just last week, during a family meeting about the wedding planning, he interrupted my mom while she was suggesting flowers, saying, "Honestly, Mom, I think your taste is outdated. Let's do something modern." Emily just giggled, and my mom looked mortified. I almost said something, but Emily shot me a look like, "Don't make this awkward." I decided I needed to set boundaries. I spoke to Emily privately and said, I need to be honest with you. I don't feel comfortable being at your wedding if Jason continues to treat our family this way. I love you, but I can't be part of a celebration where my family is disrespected. Emily got extremely defensive, saying I was overreacting and that I was trying to control her wedding. She said, You're my sister. This is my day, and you're choosing him over me. I tried to explain that it's not about choosing him over her. It's about not endorsing behavior I find disrespectful, but she wouldn't listen. After that conversation, I decided to step back. I sent a formal RSVP decline for the wedding, explaining that I couldn't attend because of my concerns about how he treats our family. Emily went ballistic. She called me multiple times, sent angry texts, and even posted on her social media, subtly implying that I was selfish and dramatic. My parents are upset too, because they don't want family drama on the wedding day, but they also understand where I'm coming from. My dad told me he wishes Emily would see reason, but he can't force her. My mom has been crying almost every day because she doesn't want the wedding to be a battleground, but she's proud I stood up for myself. Some friends of mine have said I'm being too harsh and that I should put aside my feelings for one day to support my sister. Others say I'm doing the right thing and protecting my mental health and family dignity. I feel guilty because Emily and I used to be so close, and now she's completely shutting me out. But I also feel like attending would make me complicit in accepting Jason's behavior. I've tried multiple ways to communicate this respectfully, but she refuses to see my perspective. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's consistent disrespectful behavior toward my family. AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her dog to my apartment during her visit, even though she accused me of being unwelcoming and cruel. I, 33F, live in a 2-bedroom apartment in a mid-sized city. I have lived alone for almost 10 years, and over time, I've developed routines that are important to my mental health. I work from home, have allergies to certain animals, and value my personal space. My sister, Clara, 30F, lives in another state and recently got a large, very energetic dog, a husky named Loki. She adores him and treats him as child. A few months ago, Clara told me she wanted to visit for a week and asked if she could bring Loki. I explained my situation. I'm allergic to dogs, the apartment isn't dog-proofed, and I have a work schedule that requires quiet and concentration. I offered alternatives. She could board Loki at a nearby kennel. I could help cover part of the boarding costs, or we could meet in a dog-friendly hotel or outdoor setting during her visit. I also offered to host her without the dog, saying we could still spend quality time together. Clara's reaction was intense. She said that not letting Loki stay with her was unwelcoming and cruel. She argued that it was my responsibility as her sister to accommodate her and her pet, claiming that I was being selfish and inflexible. She said that family should always put each other first, and that my refusal showed I didn't care about her or Loki. Over the next few weeks, she repeatedly pressured me, sending long messages about how stressful and inconvenient it would be to leave Loki behind. She framed the situation as me actively rejecting her and her dog. Some of our mutual relatives got involved, with some insisting I should let Loki stay, while others said my allergies and apartment limitations were valid reasons to refuse. A week before her visit, Clara booked her trip anyway and arrived, expecting Loki to come. When I reminded her that it wasn't possible, she became upset, saying I was creating unnecessary tension and that I was choosing comfort over family. She refused to consider any of the alternatives I offered, insisting that Loki needed to stay with her at all times. The day of her arrival, Clara showed up at my apartment with Loki, claiming that she couldn't leave him alone and that I would figure it out. I calmly told her that I could not allow the dog in my apartment due to allergies and personal space concerns, and that if she wanted to stay, Loki would need to be boarded. She refused and began crying and yelling, saying that I was mean-spirited and unsupportive. Loki barked and caused minor chaos while she argued, which escalated my stress and anxiety. I tried one last compromise. I offered to pay for a dog-friendly hotel nearby and even suggested I could drive her and Loki there and back so she could still visit for the day. She refused, saying it was insufficient and that I was deliberately making things difficult. She accused me of putting my convenience above our family bond and hinted that she might limit contact with me in the future. Since then, our relationship has been tense. She barely speaks to me except to make passive-aggressive remarks about how some people don't care about family, and some relatives have subtly pressured me to accommodate her, while others support my boundaries. I feel guilty, stressed, and frustrated. I want to spend time with my sister and maintain a good relationship, but I also need to protect my home, my routines, and my health. I also worry that giving in would set a precedent where Clara assumes she can bring pets or make other intrusive requests whenever she visits. I feel punished for having reasonable boundaries, yet I don't want to permanently damage my relationship with her. Reddit: AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her dog to my apartment during her visit, even though she accused me of being unwelcoming and cruel. I want to spend time with her, but I also need to respect my allergies, personal space, and mental well-being. AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiancé handle my wedding decorations and causing a huge family fight. So, this is going to be a long one, but I'll try to lay everything out as clearly as possible. I, 25F, have been engaged to my partner, Alex, 27M, for about a year. We've been planning a wedding that's scheduled for next summer. From the beginning, I was clear that I wanted a very specific style and theme for the wedding, something elegant but understated with a lot of personal touches. Alex has been supportive, and most of our planning has gone smoothly. The problem started with my older brother, Ryan, 30M. He recently got engaged to his fiancée, Megan, 28F. Megan is very opinionated and has a very DIY everything vibe. She's the type of person who watches a ton of wedding YouTube videos and Pinterest boards and believes she knows the best way to do everything. Before I even announced my engagement, she was already giving me unsolicited advice about my wedding, saying things like, "You really need to think about how guests will feel about the decor, or a big floral arch is too mainstream. You should do something unique." I mostly brushed it off as normal sibling rivalry and overeagerness. Fast forward a few months, and we've booked the venue and picked our colors and style. I decided to hire a professional decorator because I wanted the wedding to feel exactly the way I envisioned it without constant stress. I also didn't want family drama, and I figured that having a professional handle it would be the easiest way to avoid it. This is when Megan really started to push. She texted me out of nowhere, "Hey, I really want to help with your wedding decor. I have so many ideas that would make it amazing. You should let me take over the tables and flowers. I promise it will look incredible." I politely declined, saying that we had already hired someone and wanted to stick with our plans. Megan insisted multiple times over the next few weeks, even offering to cover costs if we were worried about the budget. Ich stod firm. I explained that I wanted the decorations to be exactly what Alex and I chose, and that I was not looking for outside help, even if it was well-intentioned. Then things escalated. Megan started making snide comments in front of my family like, "I guess some people just don't appreciate a little creativity," or "It's a shame you're hiring someone instead of letting a real designer help." My parents, who are usually very hands-off, started hinting that maybe I was being too rigid and that I should let Megan do something. I stayed firm but started feeling guilty because I didn't want to cause a family rift. About a month ago, the breaking point happened. My parents came over to our apartment for dinner and tried to casually bring up the wedding. Megan and Ryan had just arrived, and Megan immediately started talking about centerpieces and flower arrangements. I told her politely again that we had everything covered and asked her not to interfere. She scoffed, rolled her eyes, and said, "Wow, I didn't realize you were so controlling about this. It's just flowers." I snapped. I said, "Megan, I appreciate that you want to help, but Alex and I have made our decisions. This is our wedding, and it's not about what anyone else thinks. I need you to respect that." Megan looked shocked and started yelling at me, calling me ungrateful, bridezilla, and saying that I was ruining family harmony. Ryan jumped in, saying that I was overreacting and that maybe I should compromise. My parents tried to calm everyone down, but it quickly devolved into a full-blown argument. After that night, Megan refused to speak to me, and Ryan has been avoiding me whenever possible. My parents think I overreacted though my best friend and Alex say I handled it perfectly. I feel like I shouldn't have to let someone else dictate my wedding choices, but the tension is now unbearable. Every time we talk to my family about the wedding, Megan's name comes up, and it's always negative. I've tried to reach out to Ryan to explain my side calmly, but he says that I need to learn to be more flexible and hasn't really acknowledged my perspective. So now we're 3 months out from the wedding, and the situation is tense. Megan is saying she will refuse to attend if she's not allowed to decorate. Ryan is clearly frustrated, and my parents are caught in the middle. I don't want to have my wedding marred by arguments or passive-aggressive behavior, but I also don't want to back down on something that's so important to me. I feel like I'm being entirely reasonable by asking her not to interfere, but my family seems to see it as me being stubborn or controlling. I just want to have the wedding Alex and I planned without unnecessary drama. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiancé handle my wedding decorations and standing my ground, even though it's causing a huge family fight. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she demanded I follow a strict beauty regimen and called me lazy and inconsiderate. I, 34F, have a younger sister, Emily, 30F, who is extremely perfectionistic and has always had strong opinions about appearances, social status, and family obligations. Growing up, Emily and I were close in some ways, but we often clashed because of her high expectations and tendency to judge others. I've always been more laid back and value comfort, practicality, and authenticity over appearances. Emily got engaged last year and immediately started planning an elaborate, multi-day wedding at a luxury resort. She has been very clear that she wants the event to be picture-perfect in every way, including the behavior, attire, and appearance of every family member. About 6 months ago, she sent me a list of requirements for bridesmaids and close family, which included strict diet and exercise expectations, specific skincare routines, hairstyling, and makeup requirements. She framed it as essential to look cohesive in photos and videos. I found this list incredibly stressful and invasive. I have my own health and wellness routines that work for me, and I do not follow extreme diets or exercise regimens. I explained to Emily that I was willing to participate in the wedding in other ways, such as helping coordinate events, assisting with planning, contributing to decorations, or participating in ceremonies in a way that fit my own comfort and health. I told her I could not comply with a strict beauty regimen because it would negatively affect my mental and physical health. Emily's response was extreme. She called me lazy, selfish, and inconsiderate, and said that if I truly loved her and cared about family, I would do whatever she asked to ensure her wedding looked perfect. She claimed that my refusal would ruin the aesthetics of the wedding and potentially embarrass her in front of friends, extended family, and social media followers. I reminded her that my love and support for her should not be measured by how strictly I followed her personal beauty standards, but she refused to acknowledge this argument. Over the next few months, Emily repeatedly pressured me, sending long, guilt-laden messages and comparing me unfavorably to other family members and bridesmaids. She suggested that my refusal was evidence that I didn't care about her happiness and that I was being a burden to the family. She also mentioned that she had invested thousands of dollars in professional photographers, videographers, and a wedding planner, and implied that my refusal to follow her regime could compromise the value of all that effort. Relatives became involved. Some argued that Emily's expectations were unreasonable and that I had valid reasons to maintain my own health routines. Others sided with Emily, suggesting that family members should make sacrifices to support her vision. The tension escalated to the point that I began dreading any interaction with her or extended family, fearing judgment and confrontation. A month before the wedding, Emily sent a final message saying that unless I followed the prescribed beauty regimen, she did not want me attending the wedding at all. She framed it as a choice between love and loyalty or selfishness. I felt trapped and extremely stressed, knowing that attending would require compromising my health and well-being. After much consideration, I responded that I could not comply with her demands and would therefore not attend the wedding, but I was willing to contribute in other meaningful ways, such as financial support for the event or helping with logistics behind the scenes. Emily's reaction was explosive. She accused me of being heartless, ungrateful, and a terrible sister. She said my absence would cast a shadow over the wedding and claimed that I had ruined her special day before it even happened. Several relatives took sides. Some tried to mediate, suggesting compromises like hiring a stylist for me to meet her standards, but I explained that the issue was not superficial. Following the regimen would harm my mental health and violate my personal boundaries. Since then, communication between Emily and me has been minimal. Some family members have criticized me for choosing myself over family, while others have told me that my boundaries are reasonable. I feel conflicted. I want to maintain a relationship with my sister and celebrate her happiness, but I cannot sacrifice my health and autonomy to meet unreasonable demands. I also worry that attending under duress could damage my mental health and create resentment that would permanently affect our relationship. I have offered multiple alternatives, contributing financially, helping with planning, assisting on the day of the wedding in roles that don't require following her strict beauty standards, or even participating virtually in some ceremonies. Emily has refused all alternatives, insisting that only full compliance with her regimen would make me worthy of attending. Reddit: AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she demanded I follow a strict beauty regimen and called me lazy and inconsiderate. I want to celebrate her and support her, but I also need to respect my health, boundaries, and personal autonomy. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé be a part of my wedding because of a past incident. I, 28F, am getting married next summer, and planning has been stressful but also exciting. My fiancé, 30M, and I have been together for 6 years, and we feel ready to make this official. The problem is my sister, Lisa, 26F, who has been my best friend my whole life, got engaged last year, and her fiancé, Mark, 27M, has been a major source of tension between us. Back in high school, Mark and I were in the same circle of friends. I never liked him much because he was known for being reckless and a little manipulative, but Lisa started dating him in our last year of college. At first, I tried to be polite and supportive for Lisa's sake, but things quickly went downhill. About 4 years ago, there was an incident that completely ruined my trust in him. I was at a party at Lisa's apartment, and I had a very expensive necklace my grandmother gave me around my neck. I stepped away from the group for a few minutes to talk to another friend, and when I came back, my necklace was gone. I asked around, and no one knew what happened. Later, Lisa found out that Mark had been bragging to some friends that he borrowed my necklace as a joke. He had no intention of giving it back immediately. I confronted him. He lied at first, and only returned it after several hours when Lisa found out. That entire situation made me extremely uncomfortable and broke my trust completely. Since then, I have kept my distance. I avoid family events where he is present, and I politely decline when Lisa suggests we all hang out together. My parents tried mediating and even asked me to try to forgive and move on, but I just can't. I have anxiety around him, and it's not just me being petty. I genuinely feel unsafe and disrespected around him. Fast forward to my wedding planning. My fiancé and I decided on a fairly small wedding of around 80 people, mostly family and close friends. I made a detailed seating plan and guest list, and everything was going smoothly until Lisa dropped the bomb. She said she expected Mark to be involved in some of the wedding traditions, like the rehearsal dinner, walking her down the aisle because our dad passed away a few years ago, and attending all the pre-wedding events. I immediately told her that I was not comfortable having him involved at all. I explained that I know we are all adults, and I should be able to choose who is part of my wedding, especially since it is my special day. Lisa exploded. She said I was being unreasonable, that she couldn't believe I was punishing her for dating someone she loved, and that she felt like I was prioritizing my grudges over her happiness. She called our parents and told them that I was trying to exclude her fiancé from my wedding, and now my mother is giving me looks like I'm being stubborn and unfair. I tried to compromise by offering that he could attend the ceremony and reception as a guest only, but not be involved in any official parts of the wedding. Lisa refused, saying that he is her partner, and excluding him would make her feel like I don't support her marriage. She accused me of holding onto the necklace incident forever and said it was childish to bring it up now. My friends are divided. Some say I have every right to protect my space and comfort during my wedding, while others say I need to let go of past grievances and make peace for the sake of family. My fiancé fully supports me, and he even said he would be okay with a smaller, more intimate wedding if it meant avoiding conflict. Now, the tension has escalated. Lisa has started dropping subtle passive-aggressive comments in group chats, like, "I guess I'll just be there as a ghost if you don't want us there," and she's threatened to not attend if Mark isn't included in certain aspects. She keeps bringing up how important it is for her to have him involved in the rehearsal dinner and other events, implying that I'm being controlling and unreasonable. I feel trapped. I love my sister, but I also know I can't trust Mark, and having him anywhere near me during my wedding would ruin my experience. I've thought about security measures or asking someone to monitor him, but that feels extreme. I just want my wedding day to be about my fiancé and me, not about rehashing past problems or appeasing someone who hurt me in the past. I've tried to talk calmly with Lisa multiple times, explaining my boundaries, but every time she refuses to accept them. Now my parents are subtly pressuring me to let it go and think of family unity, and I feel like I'm being painted as the villain. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé play any role in my wedding because of a past incident, even though he would be allowed to attend as a guest. The family dynamic has become extremely stressful, and I'm honestly worried this might escalate into more drama if I don't stand firm. Character count, 6,406 if you want. I can also write a second story in this style, with a different dramatic twist, hitting close to 7,000 characters to give you a slightly longer version that could even trend more on Reddit. Do you want me to do that? Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.